Hello, hi everyone, and welcome to the second of our Serene Sorted sessions, where I am talking to Serene Sorters who've actually already learned, launched, and are living the Serenely Sorted system. And today, I am welcoming Lee to come and talk to us about her journey. And hers is a bit different, actually, and it's going to be great to hear her story because it's quite different to sort of some of the other people who've been, say, living in their home for 10 years and have got a lot of stuff built up around them. So, Lee, why don't you just dive in and just tell us a bit about you and what you're doing and how you've ended up living where you are?
Okay. Hello, Diana. Thank you. I'm excited to share my serene journey with you, with everybody. So yes, my journey is different in that about a year and a half ago, we sold everything that we own, just about, except for what could fit into our 12 suitcases. And our idea was to go and travel around Europe for at least a year, and then see after that, perhaps, further afield. But the first place we went to was Spain, was Mallorca, because I have a brother there, and we got stuck with the paperwork issue. And that took about 6 months to sort out. And we were days away from it being resolved when lockdown happened. So we ended up being in Mallorca for a year, and sort of 2 or 3 months into the lockdown decided, actually, let's just can this idea and go to the UK and start over. So that's what we did a few months ago. So we've gone from not having anything, living out of suitcases in several different types of accommodation, to landing up in the UK and starting over completely, having to get all our furniture again and starting from scratch. So it was an interesting, it was different from the other people that I've done your course with, in that I don't have a lot of stuff. And for me, it was more about starting as I mean to go on, so that I don't get into that sort of messy state again. Yeah.
And do you know what? That's really interesting, because in some ways you're like I was sort of four years ago. Like I had a reminder that we moved into our house just around this time 4 years ago, and I needed myself to invent this back then to stop. But because what happened then to me was that after 2 years, I'd kind of let those piles build up and all the things that you are going to now prevent. And I think that's why this is ideal for people who are around the point of moving house, to try and prevent that happening. And I think I think you're renting at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah. And it's temporary again. We're not. This is a very short-term rental. We're only here for another 6 weeks or so.
Oh, right.
So we will be moving somewhere more suitable soon. So yes, it's
yeah, but ultimately you're aiming to sort of find your forever home. Am I right? Like in the area, and I always think it's about you spend the most money of your life on your home, and you want it to be serene, don't you? You want it to be that feeling of sort of wonderment when you move in, and to keep that. And of course, mostly that doesn't happen, and life happens, like it did to me. But I was only 2 years in. A lot of people get sort of 20 years in. But so it's great that you're kind of looking to achieve that kind of, and be ready for that, if you like, for your forever home.
So I think for me, I've been quite so I always say this, and my poor mother gets so upset. Like my earliest memories of trying to keep my room tidy was when Mum always say, "You're so messy. You're the messiest person I've ever met." So I just had this thing in my head, like, well, I'm just a messy person. But I was extremely creative, so it was a thing of like everything had to be out, and I was always into lots and lots of things. So when I moved into my first home that was my own, I wanted to be organized, and I feel like, I mean, how long was it? 15, probably 20 years of living outside of my parents' home, and always looking for ways to stay organized and stay tidy, and never quite figuring it out. And then when I had children, like buying all of the right organizational things, in the playroom, this box and that, but not really understanding how to use them properly, because no one had ever taught me, to be honest. Yeah, and not like I'd have things in place, and I love the idea of storage boxes and that, but I didn't have the right mindset to go and keep it all tidy. So I would, at the end of a day, everything would be everywhere, and then the next day the same thing, and the next day the same thing, and at the end of a month I would suddenly be completely overwhelmed and have piles of stuff everywhere because you've got to keep on top of it every day, and that's a mindset thing.
And so what do you think you've learned around that sort of subject, if you like, through learning the system?
So a lot of it is just looking at things differently. So you've taught me to look at things in terms of where they live a lot more instead of what the thing is. And so that's a part of it. The other part of it is your system's very much about it being logical. So the way you store things, or where you store them, or how you store them, has to be like matches up to how they're used in your everyday life. And that's been a big thing, because there's a lot of things that you just do because that's how it's always done. Like you keep the spices in the drawer lying down because that's where the little rack is, but actually that didn't suit my life. Or one of your examples was you keep the nail polish like upstairs in the bathroom, but when my daughter, I don't do it very often, but when my daughter plays with nail polish, which is like daily, it's always downstairs.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Like, why keep it upstairs and then it lies it stands there on the table for a few days, because someone's got to take it upstairs and remember. And actually, if we keep it right next to where she always uses it, it's a big difference. So it's like little things like that. And then also making access easy has been, I mean, that's a part of making access easy, isn't it? But one of the life-changing things for me was not putting lids on boxes anymore.
Yes.
No one packs anything away if there's a lid on a box.
Lids, and I think that was a real revelation to me. Like, and I always bought boxes with lids, and I thought that that's storage, isn't it? But that's why I don't actually I try not to use the word storage, because we're not storing things. We're accessing things. We want easy access to the things that we're using every day. And those boxes with lids stacked on top of each other, they totally prevent that kind of easy access. And so, that was something that I've definitely learned through trial and error, that is part of the system, and how to pick the right space divider for your space. And so that's great.
And it's not about having all the space dividers or the storage or whatever it is. It's actually about learning how to use it, and that's where you come in. It's not about I'm living proof. Anyone can buy a whole lot of storage and space dividers and things, but it's you need to learn a process of how to use it in your everyday life, and your process is brilliant for that.
Yeah, and so much about it is the sort of behavior and mindset angle, isn't it? It's like looking at how well your behavior and where you're creating mess that could be avoided, and also then slightly tweaking, not completely changing your life, but tweaking your behavior to sort of do things just a little bit differently to make a big difference.
Yeah, and in manageable ways. So you're not saying like, and that's another thing that I really love about what you do. You're not going all like Marie Kondo, like change everything, chuck everything out, start over. It's very much about like meet you where you're at, and it's almost a course in mindfulness. Like, let's just be mindful of these behaviors and tweak them as we go. And the step by step of it is important as well, because you couldn't do it all in one go. You can't just like watch one of your videos and figure it all out. It's really like a step by step process that you've got to go through.
Yeah, and it's the building blocks, and that's the way I've designed it, that you sort of learn, if you like, the theory or the kind of overarching kind of concepts, and then it's about taking the small steps of your journey, like one by one. And I love that about it, because it's manageable, and people can, it's not scary, if you like, and anyone can make a start and actually make a real difference. Like the taster that I did last week, and about the 𝚃𝚒𝚎𝚎 challenge, by just doing that one thing, you can, like when you sorted your first surface, you see a massive difference. And maybe you could describe just what you did first and the impact that had.
Yeah, so the first area I tackled was the dining room, which is our like homeschool zone / admin area, office, everything. So the first thing I did there was I looked at what we did, how we used that space through the day. Like we have breakfast and dinner there, as well as all the other things through the day. So everything had to be easy to set up and pack away constantly. So we weren't going like, so before we would have like the sugar bowl and the breakfast sort of, the placemats of the sugar bowl and that sort of thing would just be like dumped on the sideboard. And then the next lot of stuff would come out and be dumped on the sideboard. And then the sideboard got too big, too messy, so then it would be dumped on the spare chair. Yeah. And then the stuff would come and we'd have to like dig under the sideboard for the placemats again. And so having everything organized, so it was just a case of like, we'll bring out the breakfast basket, everything's in it to unpack. Like that's another thing I didn't ever think of, was that you can move a basket. Like how logical. But
using more movability is absolutely key.
It doesn't have to be static in one place. Which, by the way, has been life-changing for doing my makeup, because it lives in my bedroom, but the best light is in the bathroom. So I take bits and then I leave it on the bathroom basin, and then now I just take the whole basket and do my makeup and take the whole basket back again. But the dining room is being mindful about how we used it, and then organizing it for me, I organized it according to the time of day activities. So there was a breakfast time, then it's the homeschool, each child's got their things, as well as baskets for like all the stationery. And my daughter is so like carbon copy of me when I was her age. So we've got a painting basket and a knitting basket and a craft basket, all the baskets. And then the evening, the dinner time is a different basket.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Like, and how, it's just a subtle and it's just through looking at things just in a different way. You've just got like a brilliant set of activity-based, end homes there that are just sounds like they're working like a dream for you.
They're working brilliantly, but it wouldn't really work without looking at it all differently, which is what you've taught me to do as well. Like it's not just a case of, again, such as a case to buy the baskets and it all just works. You've got to like go through the process, get everybody on board.
Exactly. I was going to ask you about that actually. Like, so often it is like, I don't know, because it's not always the woman actually who sort of goes for it initially, because it's sort of also because I'm the messy one and I knew I needed to do it. And so the dynamics of different couples are all different, but obviously often it is the sort of mum or the wife or the woman in the house that would kind of take the initial initiative. But how's it gone anyway in your family, and what would you say to people about that?
So it's tricky. My husband's really on board with it, and if you asked him, he would say I'm the messy one, but I think he's messier than me. So
I love it.
It's a little bit tricky. But he's on board with it and he loves that I've done it. Getting my husband on board with changing his mindset has been difficult. Like he almost needs to work with you as well to shift his mindset a bit, because
well, maybe we can have a family one-to-one session after.
Yeah, exactly. Because things like like if he's clearing up for dinner, he'll just put the baskets on the floor. Open the cupboard and put them in the cupboard. It's not that difficult. But
you know what? That's a habit thing as well. Like we've talked in the course about, even me and my trainers. I still always walk into the bathroom. So just for the people watching, it's a lot of it's about habits and building up these new behaviors. And even now, even for me, sort of breaking a habit or starting a new habit is not something that happens overnight.
Yes.
And so, you know, I want to put my trainers away after my workout straight away into the cupboard. But, you know, I still walk automatically into the bathroom, where previously I've been just taking them off and leaving them there. But so I want to avoid that kind of or eliminate that mess, and I am doing it, but it's taking a little bit of effort at the moment. But you know, so it's you know, that sort of reminding, reinforcing.
Which is obviously then, because I now know this, it's easier for me to do that with the children, and that's probably the biggest benefit. Is so, like, to go back to my mum, she is very house proud and everything's always pristine. So probably the reason why I was so messy was because I never was taught to tidy, because she would turn us out the house while she made everything perfect.
Right. Yeah.
So I've often worried that I don't know how to teach my children to keep tidy. So having a framework that I can teach them, and something real, and some of the tools that you've given us, like some of the actual printable things I've used with my daughter, and it's been fantastic. Actually, a thing this morning where I was I wanted to pack the baskets away, and I said, who put the pencils in the pen pot? And my daughter was so like guilty, like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry, I messed with the system. And it was great that she knows she was being lazy, you know, but it's so simple for them to use, and it's so nice for me to have a structure that I can teach them, that they can continue to do and live a tidier life themselves. Like my son's room now is just pristine and perfect. He's so on board.
That's so wonderful to hear. Like, it really is, because, you know, teaching our kids those principles early on, like I always think, you know, we're all guilty of it. You say, go and tidy your room to the kids, but how can they not just shove things under the bed? Because they don't really know what to do. And there might be storage boxes, but if you don't have like a structure at the end homes in place at the right level as well, then it's quite difficult for them to achieve that on their own. And you know, definitely in our home, that's massively changed now. And they can maintain, I mean, not perfection, of course, and they still need to be reminded to go and do it, and you know, what have you, but when they actually are doing it, they're doing it 100 times better than previously.
And it feels good for them, like both of them, but my son especially, like that really appeals to him. And often, I didn't tell you this, you're always talking about the color coding the Lego and how it's like unrealistic. When my son was about 5, he color coded his Lego himself.
Well, if he does it, that's absolutely fine.
And I was like, whoa.
Whoa, yeah. That is a bit insane, but I always say, if that's your thing, if that's what you love to do, then knock yourself out. But for me personally, I don't have or want to spend time doing that. So you know, it's not going to happen in my life, but it doesn't mean I can't have a really great tidy home. So you know,
it's quite it was almost more satisfying for him. Like, he'd get a new box of Lego for his birthday, and the first thing he'd do was put it in the little drawers.
Oh my gosh, lovely.
But he's over that now. Now he just likes to be. But you know, he's obviously got that in him. Like, he likes things to be tidy, so he's loving it that he's now been given a bit of a system that he can use.
Oh, awesome! That's so awesome. So, just, you know, what would you say to people who were thinking of doing it? They weren't quite sure, or you know, what would you say to people who were considering learning or enrolling in the academy? You know, what would you say to them, Lee?
So I would say it's so much more than what it looks like on the surface. It's not a course on tidying up. There's so much more about like taking responsibility for your home, like living in a home that you love, and like shifting your mindset and behavior around the way you live with your things, and just feeling so much more like happy with the way that you live and the way that you live with your things and what you own. It's not just, I think it can be easy to think, oh, well, you know, it's a course on tidying up, but it's not. It's a course on so much more than that, and on really like, I don't want to be trite, but like living your best life in your home. Like, don't you want to feel calm and happy and like everything sorted? Because I don't know about you, but I mean, even if the mess is behind a cupboard door, it still bothers me.
Yeah.
So
100%.
knowing that everything is like all the mindset and behavior stuff and all the little tips that you give along the way and all the structures that you put in place, that you have to put in a little bit of work initially, and then when you just start living it, it just becomes a normal part of your day-to-day life. And it's so much more about that feeling at the end of it and the way your mindset and behavior shifted than about learning a process that you feel like you have to force yourself to implement every day. There's none of that. There's none of that like feeling guilty, like, oh, I should be doing the system, because your whole behavior system has changed.
Yeah, so it's not an effort, actually. That's what I try to convey, is that tidying, I don't even feel like I'm tidying most of the time. It's just happens. It's like it's getting back to tidy. It's returning things to their end homes. It's not there's no barrier there to just doing what I need to do. And like, you know, even the kids' rooms, it's not like I used to absolutely dread going in there, you know, but it's not like that now.
Yeah, that's very true. I also think it's really important for me to say, because I said this in the course with you, like our styles of what appeals to us in terms of tidy are very different. Like your style is much more minimalist and lots of clean surfaces, and my style, like you would probably feel, is cluttered. Like I like all my favorite little things out, and it works on all different styles of what you feel is a happy, tidy space. It doesn't, like, you're not teaching us to make everything look like your home.
No.
It totally suits your own home and your style of the way that you do things.
Yeah, absolutely, and I completely agree. Interestingly, a few of the people on the same course, I can't remember which person it was, but they were, although what you say is true, they also found themselves liking it because they could see how sometimes it actually improved they'd always lived with, you know,
Lots of things, yes,
a lot of clutter there, but because that's just the way it was, and they sort of lived with it. But then they found that actually when they managed to sort that or put it away, it improved things. But that's not what you're saying. That's a different thing, because it's about style and what you like, and that's different for everyone, of course. Lee, it's been really great to chat to you, and I'm so happy about the results you've had. I mean, it just sounds amazing, actually, you know, with the kids, your husband, everyone being on board with it. I couldn't hope for more, and for your son to love having it, and for them to appreciate what it's doing for them, and I'm sure for you as well, and how it makes everyone's lives easier at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. Highly recommend it.
That's wonderful to hear. Well, happy Friday to you, Lee, and I
brought my Friday wine.
Yes, unfortunately, I've still got to go on my Sainsbury's trip, so I haven't been able to actually open the wine yet, but definitely as soon as I get back. So, and thanks to everyone who's joined. I can see Louisa there, and Francis, and a few others. And yeah, so awesome. And have a great weekend, Lee, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for helping me sort out my home.
Oh, pleasure. Right.